Today is Tisha B'Av, and I wanted to give, I wanted us to learn about the Bet HaMikdash. So, B'Shem Hashem Naseh V'Natzliach, this shiur for Refuah Shlema to Avraham ben Chana, Atinok ben Natalie Hadassah, Oram bat Dalia, Shimon Daniel ben Michal. For all singles to meet their partner in life, and שיזכו לבנות בית נאמן בישראל. Just as we're asking Hashem to build his house, so too the singles should have the zechut to be able to build their own home, a true beit נאמן בישראל. For לעילוי נשמת האחים פולמן בני אברהם, רחל בת יעקב, רחל בת חווה, יעקב בן אסתר, אסתר בת חנה, סוליקה בת אסתר, לאה בת אסתר, רחל בת שרה, ניסים בן ימנה, גרסה בת זהרה, לידיסיה בת זהרה, יהושע בן זהרה ואשתו, ודוד בן זהרה. Thank you, Hashem, for all your chasadim that you have done with us in the past and will continue to do so for each and every one of us. Thank you to all my listeners and my supporters, those who write comments on YouTube and on the chat. Hashem should bless you all for helping to spread Torah and for you to continue to learn and grow in Torah. So today we are mourning the destruction of the Bet HaMikdash, the first and the second. As we have learned before, this first one was really magnificent, something very, very, very special. We are also mourning for all the tzarot, all the troubles, all the problems, the challenges that have happened to us, to the Jewish nations, since the Bet HaMikdash was destroyed. We're talking about over 1900 years ago. Actually, there's a story, a famous story, that there used to be the yeshiva of Volozhin, which is in Russia, and Napoleon had captured Russia, and one day he was walking on the street and he saw this big building, and he wondered, what is this building? He decided to go inside. Happened to be that building was the yeshiva. It was actually the first of its kind. Until then, there never were yeshivot where the boys were able to sleep and where they had a dorm, when they were served meals. That was the first yeshiva. I'm talking about, it was destroyed by I'm not sure if it's the Nazis or the Russians who destroyed it, but Napoleon was there and he went inside. It happened to be that day was Tisha B'Av. So he walks in and he hears people crying, and he's walking towards those cries, and he goes in and he sees that there are people on the floor, all those men sitting on the floor and crying in the dark. There was barely any light. And he says to them, what's going on? Why are you crying? So they answered him, we're crying because the Bet HaMikdash was destroyed. Who destroyed? I am the master here. Who destroyed it? Who dares destroy your house? I said, no, it's not our house. It's a temple. It's a house of God. So where is it? Who dares destroy it? No, it's not here. It's in Israel. In Israel? In Yerushalayim? Why, you have houses there? No. It was one temple that was built for Hashem. And it was destroyed. How long ago? I said, 19 years, and then 1900 years ago. What? Well, that time was before 19, right? What? So long ago? What, like 1700 years ago? And you're still crying for it? Wow. A nation that can cry for its past is a nation that has a future. And that was said by Napoleon. Obviously, we know this. We didn't need Napoleon to come and teach us that. We knew this. But this is a very famous story that is written in the books of this yeshiva. And I thought I would share it with you. So, Chachamim teach us that, sorry, let me go back. We are crying for the Bet HaMikdash. So I just wanted to learn with you some special things that happened in the Bet HaMikdash, some miracles, things that don't happen anywhere else and never happened anywhere else except in the Bet HaMikdash. So Chachamim teach us in the Gemara that any trouble, any tragedy, any sickness, a lack of the loss of a loved one, lack of parnasa, lack of shalom, lack of nachat, lack of simcha, young soldiers dying, and everything, any trouble that is going on in the world, especially with us, it is because of the destruction, the Hurban of the Bet HaMikdash. Bnei Israel were blessed so much with everything that is hurting us now, and much, much, much more. The blessings were just unbelievable in the Bet HaMikdash, in Yerushalayim, and all over Eretz Israel, to the point that in the time of David HaMelech and the time of Shlomo, no Jews, even though the time of David HaMelech, the Bet HaMikdash was not built yet, but the Jews had a very good time. They were on top of the world. Time of Shlomo, even higher. So they closed all the Batei Din. All conversions were closed off. No more conversions. Why? Because ago you could say, oh, the Jews have it so good, I also want to have part of it. So they would not be converting because they're convinced that Hashem is the master of the world, and believe in him, but they would convert just because they want to have a good life. So all the Batei Din were closed. So all over Israel, as Israel, there used to be so many miracles, especially in the Bet HaMikdash. So Chachamim tell us daily there were miracles. So I'm going to tell you some of the miracles that happen daily. Some happen only during certain holidays. So some happened during on Erev Shabbat or on Shabbat. So depending on what it was. And I'm only taking a few. There were a lot more. So for example, it says about the ketoret. The ketoret was incense. It means taking different spices and burn them on the mizbeach ha-ketoret. It was a small mizbeach, small altar. It was made of gold, and as we learned before, there was always a fire on it, and they would put the spices, they would mix them, and they would put them on it. The smell was so good, such a good smell. It was the best perfume ever, to the point that the smell used to spread all the way to Jericho. So even the women in Jericho, and the Gemara says, the women in Jericho did not have to put on perfume, but especially a kala. A kala did not have in Yerushalayim or as far as Jericho. She did not have to put any perfume on because the smell from the Ketoret would just go on her. And the smell that she had on her was just heavenly. It really was very, very special. In the courtyard of the Bet HaMikdash, they used to offer the korbanot. So normally when you have meat out for a few hours, especially if it's going to be in the heat, so there's to be smell. So it's like, for example, when you make a barbecue, and if you make a lot of barbecue for more than just 1 hour or whatever it is, and you do a lot of meat, so the smell really like the smell attracts everyone. Oh, there's a barbecue going on. It smells good. It makes you hungry. So Chachamim tell us there never was a single woman who chas v'shalom miscarried her baby, had a miscarriage because of the smell. What does this mean? Because we know that pregnant women, then if they smell some food, we must give to them to eat. Because chas v'shalom, if they have the taste in their mouth and they really want to eat from it and it's not given to them, they can miscarry. The woman can miscarry her baby. And here, the korbanot, the woman would not be able to eat from the korban, from the sacrifice. Yet, there never was one single woman who had a miscarriage because of the smell, because she wanted to eat from that. She smelled and she wanted to eat from the korban. Number two, there was so much meat, like I said before, from all the sacrifices, and was left out in the sun for hours. And yet, there wasn't one single fly. Nothing. Nothing at all. Didn't attract flies at all. And the other ness is that it didn't smell. The meat did not go bad. We know that can get quite hot in Yerushalayim in the summer, right? And especially if the meat is going to stay out for hours, just simply the Kohanim were doing their jobs. But it took a while to get through all the korbanot, right? All the sacrifices. And yet, it wasn't smelling. There was no smell from the meat. The meat did not go bad. And they were able to offer the korbanot. The other miracle was on the second night of Pesach. It had to be done at night, that the Kohanim would go to the field and they would get a bunch, an omer, it's a measurement, let's say a kilogram, let's say, of barley, fresh barley that just grew, and they would cut it, take it to Bet HaMikdash, and the next day they would clean it up and grind it and make it into loaves. It never went bad. They never had a problem with it. What problem could be? There were years when there were famines. There was no food. Yet they were always able to offer the korban of Omer, and for the same on Shavuot, korban ha'chita, shtei halechem for Shavuot, the same thing. They were always able to bring these korbanot. They're called korbanot even though it's bread. They're called sacrifices even though this is bread and not animals. But they were always able to be brought. On Pesach, it was from the freshly cut barley, and on Shavuot, it was from the freshly cut wheat. The next ness we're going to learn about is that Chachamim tell us that over Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot, which are called the Shalosh Regalim, during those days, there were as many as 12 million Jews in Yerushalayim. There were lots of people, lots. Everyone opened up their homes to take in all those people who came in because it's a mitzvah. on Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot to go to Yerushalayim, to the Bet HaMikdash. So everyone would open up their homes. There were so many people, yet during the prayers, and they had to say vidui, they had to say that they were sorry for what they had done wrong. To do that, they actually had to say what they had done wrong, and they had to bow down. To bow down, they needed room to be able to bow down. There was a miracle that there was what we call balet amot. That there was an area, you would say about 3/4 of a yard, that opened up in front and in the back of them and on the sides, so that this way they would be able to do their vidui, do their teshuvah without anyone listening to what they were saying. The next one is, we know that in hot countries they have a problem with snakes and scorpions. Yerushalayim, it's the same thing, right? Yet not one person who came to Yerushalayim, to the Bet HaMikdash, ever got bitten by a snake or a scorpion. The next is that whoever lived in Yerushalayim never had to leave Yerushalayim and say, I can't find my parnasa here, let me go to a different place. Never. Whoever lived in Yerushalayim had his blessings for parnasa, and he had his parnasa. The smoke that was on the Mizbeach, we had two Mizbechot, one for the ketoret, for the incense, for the spices, and the second one, which was a big Mizbeach, big altar, that one was for the animals, where they cut up the animals and they would put the pieces on the Mizbeach to burn. And there was always a smoke coming up from both of them, from the incense and from the sacrifices. The smoke will go as in a straight line, just like a straight stick, all the way to Shamayim. It didn't matter how windy it was, and it never, ever was pushed aside or waved, nothing. It always stayed straight up. It rained. In the winter, it rained, right? Sometimes in Yerushalayim it even snowed. Yet, and there was no roof over the Mizbeach, yet the flame on the Mizbeach was never blown out. The Gemara tells us about more nisim. For certain korbanot, for certain sacrifices, the Kohanim had to use earthenwares, jars or like pots made of earthenware. They used to use them for certain pieces of the korbanot, and those pieces of earthenware, they could not be used again. They had to be broken. So there was lots of them. There should have been really a mountain of broken shards, broken pieces. Yet there was a miracle. All those pieces got swallowed up by the ground. And it was gone within seconds. There was nothing left. And this happened in the Hazara. Hazara was a room where it was really for the guests who came to the Bet HaMikdash, right? And that's where it happened. Then there was an area in the courtyard next to the Mizbeach, the big Mizbeach, the one for the Korbanot. There was an area where the Kohanim used to clean the Mizbeach from the ashes, from any whatever there may have been on the Mizbeach. They would put those ashes on the ground in one area and pile it up. That was there. Every day it had to be cleaned, right? But there was other things also, like from the birds, they would take all the innards from there and from the other animals also, and they would put them on top of the ashes, right? And really, this part should have become a hill or even a mountain, because of the amount of korbanot, or sacrifices. Yet, it also got swallowed up. That you saw nothing, absolutely nothing. We had in the Bet Hamikdash, we had what we call the shulchan, the table. It had 12 shelves, 6 shelves on each side, and the Kohanim on Erev Shabbat, they used to bake bread, loaves. And they were not chametz, and yet they were this high. They were really high, and they would put them on the shelves. Those loaves would stay warm and fresh for an entire week until the next Erev Shabbat. Then the next Erev Shabbat, then the Kohanim would remove the lechem apanim, those loaves from last week, from the previous week, and they would put in, at the same time as they would pull out, they would also put in the new loaves of bread, of the lechem apanim. And they would eat the lechem apanim from the week before. And yet it was fresh and warm as if it had just been baked. The Aron Habrit, the Aron where the luchot were kept, the tablets of the Ten Commandments were kept, were put in the Kodesh HaKodashim, right, in the Holy of Holies. Onto the box, let's say that this is a box, right? So they had one pole here and one pole this way, right, to carry the Aron. So when they put the Aron in the Kodesh HaKodashim, the poles were regular length. But as soon as they put them in the Kodesh HaKodashim, the poles would actually extend by a miracle all the way to the walls. So it looked like as if the Aron was really standing in the air, wasn't occupying any space at all. The next miracle that we see with the Aron is that on top of the Aron, it had, as we mentioned before, it had 2 angels, one with a face of a woman, the other one of a man. They were, each one were of the height of 1 amma. 1 amma, it means from the tip of the finger to the elbow, which is an average of about 60 centimeters, but something like that. And so that was the height of each angel. Now, on top, those angels had wings. The wings were 5 amot. The wings were 5 amot, right? But then they opened up 20 amot, right? Really, there wasn't enough room for the height of for the width, not the height, sorry, for the width of the wings, because there was also the width of the body, right? The wings were attached from their shoulders, so there was a body, and yet it fit. Both sets of wings fit into the Kodesh HaKodashim. When Shlomo HaMelech wanted to build the Bet HaMikdash, so he took workers, right? And he took workers who were expert at working with gold. And he asked them to make fruit trees from all kinds of trees that exist. But those fruit trees were going to be made of gold. And they put them in the Bet HaMikdash as decorations. And part of the those decorations was that there also was, you could see like fruit. Obviously, it was golden fruit on the trees. It was a miracle that whenever the season of a tree, let's say it was an orange tree, there was an orange tree, right? And it was a season for the oranges to grow when they were ripe and ready to be picked. And so whatever the season was of the trees, so as I said, like the oranges, they would actually, there were oranges growing out of gold growing from those golden trees. The Kohanim, each one would come and take fruit. They had the golden orange or golden apple or golden grapes, whatever the fruit was, and that's how they were able to sell that gold and have their parnasa. When Shlomo HaMelech built the Bet HaMikdash, one of the rules is that no tool made of metal could be used. Now, they had to get stones, right, from the quarry, from the mountain, which is outside of Yerushalayim. They had to go there and chisel the stone to cut the stones out of the mountains. How could they do this if they weren't able to use any metal? So the Midrash tells us that actually Shlomo HaMelech was looking for an answer, and he found the answer. The answer was the shamir. The shamir was really a worm, a small worm. But the shamir had, let's put it in today's language, he had a laser. With that laser, he was able to cut through anything, stone, glass, metal, anything. So Shlomo HaMelech sent Benayahu ben Yehoyada, who was the Rosh Sanhedrin, and he was also the general of the army of Shlomo. He sent him to the desert with his soldiers. They were able, the shamir was in the possession of a bird, Tarnegol Habar. I'm not sure how to translate this bird, and the name of the bird, it's called the Tarnegol Habar, and they were able to trick it and get the shamir. And once they had the shamir, this worm, they were able to take it to the quarry, and it just cut all the stones. There, if we look at the kotel, we see the stones, some of them are so big, so big. The very top ones, like the last 18 rows of the kotel, we see the stones are not as big. That's because Sir Moses Montefiore had gotten builders to come and add those stones, because the Arabs used to go and walk on top of the wall, and he wanted to stop them, so he made it very high so that no one would be able to reach all the way there. But all the stones that are below those 18 rows of stones, they are big. And actually, very recently, in the tunnels of the kotel, they said that, because what we see is a very small piece of the kotel. What we see is not even maybe a quarter, maybe of the whole wall of that was there in Yerushalayim. So in the tunnel, there is more of the kotel. They were able to find one stone that is 13 meters long. That's huge, and about the same size, also about 13 or 15 meters wide. This is huge. How could they have carried something like this? Even today, they don't have a machine that can carry a stone like this. So what happened? So the Midrash tells us that actually there were malachim. Hashem sent malachim to come and carry all those heavy stones, to carry them from the quarry all the way to Yerushalayim, to the building site. Now, Shlomo HaMelech had many workers. The building of the Bet HaMikdash lasted for 7 years. He had 150,000 workers. Now, who were these workers? Shlomo HaMelech knew more was going to happen to those workers at the end, and we'll talk about it soon. So he didn't want to take Jews. But there were non-Jews who wanted to come and convert. Like we said before, he didn't want to accept them because he didn't know. Why are they converting? Because it's good, Jews are having a good life, or because they really, really believe in Hashem. So what did he do? He said, okay, so he converted them. But they were contained in their own group of people. And these workers, 150,000 of them, he used them to build the Bet HaMikdash. And as time went on, not one of them died or got sick or had an accident. Nothing for 7 years. Once the Bet HaMikdash was completed, they all died. Every single one of them died. Why? So there's two reasons. One reason is because Hashem didn't want these workers to be hired by non-Jews, and they would go and they would tell about the magnificence of the Bet HaMikdash, and the Goyim would want to do a replica for the Avodah Zarah. Hashem said no. But why is it so important for Hashem? Because really the plans for the Bet HaMikdash were already given to Moshe. Moshe taught about these plans to Yehoshua to the Zekenim, the Zekenim to Anshe Knesset HaGdolah, and it went on and on and on. It was taught, passed down to the Shoftim, yes, and then to Shmuel to David, and David to Shlomo. So that Hashem said, these plans are so special, no one is going to copy. And Shlomo didn't want to use Jewish workers because he says, I don't want 150 Jews to die. Because he knew that his workers were going to die at the end of the building. The Shekhinah of Hashem was there the whole time, in the first Bet HaMikdash, constantly. The Shekhinah is still there today by the Kotel. We know Hashem never left the Kotel. So Be'ezrat Hashem, we know Rashi teaches us that the third Bet HaMikdash will come down from heaven fully built, complete. One have to do one thing. So let's hope Be'ezrat Hashem. Hashem in the hood today of all the prayers and all the cries and all the tzarot that each and every one of us are going through. There's not one family that has everything is okay. It doesn't exist. The tzarot are all over. So Be'ezrat Hashem, very, very soon, please Hashem, listen and look at our challenges and look at our suffering.